It's Cyber Monday, a day on the retail calendar that can be enjoyed from a desk or the couch.
Enjoyed from a desk or a couch.
Enjoyed from a desk or maybe the couch.
Enjoyed from a desk or the couch.
Enjoyed from a desk or the couch.
Enjoyed from the desk or even the couch.
Enjoyed from a desk or the couch.
From a desk or the couch.
From a desk or the couch.
From a desk or a couch.
From a desk or your couch.
From the desk or the couch.
From your desk or the couch.
From a desk or the couch.
From a desk or a couch.
From your desk or the couch.
From a desk or the couch.
From a desk or couch.
From a desk or the couch.
From a desk or even the couch.
From a desk or the couch.
Enjoy from a desk or a couch.
From a desk
or the couch.
From a desk or the couch. Or wherever you like, as long as you got internet.
I want the young motherfuckers in here tonight, no matter what your nationality is. Turn the motherfucking TV off for 1 week and see if you can survive. Motherfuckers are going to a television junkie motherfucking mode. Nigga, ain't no TV. I need my remote, nigga. I'm Jones. Nigga, it's called television programming. They telling you visually to program. You being programmed, nigga. You watch it on the news. It was on CNN, it's true. I seen it on Fox. It's real. It's bullshit.
There is something you said that upset and scared a lot of people. It upset a lot of Jews in the United States and around the world when you called the Holocaust a myth. There are people, some people I know, who escaped Hitler's reign. There is research, there are scholars who can teach you about it, and yet you've expressed doubt about the Holocaust. Why?
من دو سه تا سوال مشخص پرسیدم.
I've asked 2 or 3 clear questions on this.
شما میدونید من یک دانشگاهی هستم.
You know that I belong to the university. I'm an academician.
علاقه‌مندم پدیده ها رو علمی بررسی کنم.
I'm interested in having a scientific approach to all events.
من دو تا سوال مطرح کردم.
So I raised 2 or 3 questions.
سوال اول این بود.
The first question was,
در جنگ جهانی بیش از 60 میلیون نفر کشته شدند.
in the First World War, over 60 در جنگ جهانی اول جنگ جهانی In the Second World War, over 60 million people lost their lives.
همه انسان بودند.
They were all human beings.
چرا عده خاصی از اینها مهم شدند؟
Why is it that only a select group of those who were killed have become so prominent and important?
Because of the difference humankind draws between warfare and genocide.
قتل حجیم عمدی
شما فکر می‌کنید
نسل
60 میلیون نفر کشته شدن همه نظامی بودن؟
Do you think that the 60 million who lost their lives were all as a result of warfare alone?
2 میلیون نظامی بودن.
There were 2 million that were part of the military at the time, perhaps
58
altogether.
میلیون مردم عادی بودن.
58 million civilians
نقشی در جنگ نداشتن.
with no roles in the war.
مسیحی بودن، مسلمان بودن، کشته
Christians,
شدن.
Muslims, they were all killed.
ما سوال دوم و مهمتر اینه.
The second and more important question that I raised was,
اگر چنین چیزی اتفاق افتاده و یک واقعه تاریخی است، چرا اجازه نمیدن دانشمندان راجع به اون تحقیق کنن؟
if this event happened and if it is a historical event, then we should allow everyone to research it and study it.
خب اگر یه واقعیت باشه، هر چی تحقیقات بیشتر بشه، شفافتر میشه.
The more research and studies are done, the more we can become aware of the realities that happened.
ما الان اجازه میدیم راجع به قوانین مسلم فیزیکی و ریاضی هم باز تحقیق انجام بشه.
We still leave open to further studies absolute knowledge of science or math.
حوادث تاریخی که همیشه در معرض تحقیق هستن.
Historical events are always subject to revisions and reviews and studies.
ما داریم درباره تاریخ بشر 7000 سال قبل پی در پی تحقیق میکنیم.
We're still revising our thoughts about what happened over thousands of years ago.
چرا محققان زندان نمیشن؟
Why is it that those who ask questions are persecuted?
چرا تحقیق و سوال درباره این مسئله ممنوعه؟
Why such sensitivity or such prohibition on further studies on the subject?
در حالی که راجع به خدا، راجع به پیامبران، راجع به آزادی، راجع به دموکراسی میشه سوال کرد.
Whereas we can openly question God, the prophets, concepts such as freedom and democracy.
و سوال آخر
And
این
the
که
third question that I raised in
اگر
this
چنین
regard,
چیزی اتفاق افتاده،
if this happened,
در کجا اتفاق افتاده؟
where did it happen?
مردم فلسطین چه نقشی در اون داشتن؟
Had the Palestinian people had anything to do with it?
چرا فلسطینی ها باید خسارت بپردازند؟
Why should the Palestinians pay for it now?
5 میلیون آواره
5 million displaced Palestinian people is what I'm talking about.
60 سال تهدید
Over 60 years of living under threat,
هزاران نفر کشته
losing the lives of thousands of dear ones,
و خونه ها بر سر مردم روزانه تخریب میشه.
and homes that are destroyed on a daily basis over people's heads.
ممکنه شما بگید یهودی ها حق دارن یه دولت داشته باشن.
You might argue that the Jews have the right to have a government.
ما مخالف نیستیم.
We're not against that.
اما در کجا؟
But where?
باید برن یه جایی که مردمشون بپذیرن به اینا رأی بدن دولت بزن.
At a place where their people will accept, where people will vote for them, and where they can govern.
نه با آواره کردن یه ملت.
Not at the cost of displacing a whole nation
و با اشغال یک سرزمین.
and occupying a whole territory.
Is that a change in your position that Israel should be wiped away? And second, would you ever be willing to sit down with Jews, with scholars, with survivors of Hitler's camps where 6 million died? Our American film director, Steven Spielberg, is one of many, collecting the stories of those still alive who will tell you of the dead and the program to kill the Jews in Germany and elsewhere.
من احساس میکنم یک نوع فرار از حقیقت وجود داره.
I feel that there is a feeling of a need to escape the truth here.
در دولت مردان آمریکا
Among American
و
politicians,
برخی از رسانه‌های آمریکایی.
as well as some media here.
سوال اصلی این است.
The main question is,
اگر در اروپا چنین اتفاقی افتاده مردم فلسطین چه گناهی کردند؟
the main question is, if this happened in Europe, what is the fault of the Palestinian people?
مشکل امروز این است، نه حادثه 60 سال قبل.
This is the problem we have today, the root cause of many of our problems, not what happened 60 years ago.
مردم فلسطین امروز به بهانه هولوکاست سرکوب میشن.
The Palestinian people, their lives are being destroyed today under the pretext of the Holocaust.
و سرزمینشون غصب شده.
Their lands have been occupied,
اونا چه گناهی کردن؟
usurped. What is their fault? What are they to be
انسان
blamed
نیستن؟
for? Are they not human beings?
اونا حق ندارن؟
Do they have no rights?
اونا چه نقشی در هولوکاست داشتن؟
What role did they play in the Holocaust?
بعضی‌ها موضوع رو عوض میکنن.
Some tend to sort of change the subject of
فرض
it.
من روز اول هم گفتم فرض کنیم چنین اتفاقی افتاده است.
From the first day I said, well, assuming that the Holocaust happened,
چه ربطی به مردم فلسطین دارد؟
then again, what does it have to do with the Palestinian people?
باور کنید مردم فلسطین هم انسانن.
Not at all. Nothing.
احساس دارن.
Believe me, Palestinian people are human beings. They have feelings.
اونها هم دوست دارن در سرزمین خودشون زندگی کنن.
They like to live in their own
حق
lands.
تعیین سرنوشت داشته باشن.
To have the right to
خونه
self-determination.
هاشون در امان باشن.
To feel secure in their homes.
بچه‌های کوچیک کشته نشن.
So that their small kids are not killed.
زنها از داخل خانه هاشون به اسارت نرن.
So that women are not taken from their own homes,
آینده این اقدامات چه خواهد بود؟
What is the future of such measures?
Adam, come on, man. Hey. Hey, you on camera already?
I don't care.
Come on, come on.
Show them this. How you doing, brother? Assalamu alaikum.
Hey, can I hear that again? Adam, please. Come on, man.
Nah, brother. Nah, man. I got you. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. حاميم والكتاب المبين إنا جعلناه قرآنا عربيا لعلكم تعقلون وإنه في الأم الكتاب لدينا لعلي حكيم أفنضرب عنكم الذكر صفحا أن كنتم قوما مسرفين وكم أرسلنا من نبي في الأولين وما يأتيهم من نبي إلا كانوا به يستهزئون صدق الله العظيم وبلغ رسول كريم ونحن على ما قال مولانا ومصطفانا من الشاهدين السلام عليكم ورحمة الله
So what
وبركاته.
Villa-Lobos did is he actually named the islands on behalf of the king. King Philip, he said this, Las Islas Filipinas, the islands of King Philip. So this is where the name of the Philippines came from. And this stuck until today. The Muslims, they don't accept this. They say, the Philippines is your land. We belong to Bangsamoro.
That's what they call it.
What's the name of it? Let me hear it.
Bangsamoro.
Do they call their area that, or do they consider that to like all the Philippines?
Anything that is the Muslim land, they call it Bangsamoro. Philippines, because a lot of Muslims in the Philippines, they ask, who is King Philip? Do I belong to King Philip? Why should I call myself a Filipino?
Bangsamoro, you think that word derives from Moro, how they call it?
Yes. As we mentioned, it comes from the name Moro. Bangsa, it means homeland of the Moros or the Muslims. So they will say, I don't belong to King Philip. Filipino means you belong to King Philip. We belong to Allah. We're Moros, we're Muslims.
And how they allow the name to stuck in the time?
Once the Spanish began to conquer, the name stuck. The Muslims never accepted this. Until today, they say, we're not Filipinos. We're Muslims. We have our own nation. You crusaders, you came and you tried to kill us. You tried to attack us. And it's been going for 490 years now. We are Muslims.
Nationality is the order of the day. Nationality is the order of the day. And when you start exercising as a Moor here and here, world opens up to you. You can't just exercise more here. Can't just exercise more here. These two have to be in harmony. Right? Remember, love is the first principle. So Noble Drew Ali said, learn to love instead of hate. He's starting you at this chakra. And you go from here up. If you talk about learn to love instead of hate, and then you're still dabbling down here in these chakras, obviously you didn't get the message. Obviously you have blockages here, because only if you have a blockage here would you not be able to open this up. Right? Again, we put the class out and go get the pranic healing and study Reiki, study breathing, which is really spirituality, because that's where your freedom is. And breathing doesn't mean sitting in the lotus position and the om and stuff like that. That's mundane breathing. We're talking about off the fly breathing. You're at work, standing there, hit some breaths. 636. Whatever. Make up your own stuff. But we have to get this and this working together. If the heart and the mind are not working together, it's because, one, you probably got wrong information. You're probably messing with some dirty Moors, right? Messing with some Moors who don't acknowledge Noble Drew Ali, don't even mention him in their classes or whatever like that, But they got books and they got fezzes but they don't want to mention Noble Drew Ali. But they got flags and they got cards and they got a temple and but they don't want to mention Noble Drew Ali. And then if they do mention Noble Drew Ali, they're mentioning him on some, prophet of Allah, Christian BS. When Drew Ali was a mastermind, esoteric, adept. Right? Moorish nationality won't save your life. Moorish nationality will save your life. You could listen to people who don't have nationality if you want to. We suggest that you take nationality and birthright a little more serious than these jokers who's trying to tell you don't take nationality and birthright serious. Right? Just like we said before, how you gonna want to know about Moors and ask a black guy? How you want to know about Moors and you asking an African chematologist? How do you want to know about Moors and you're asking somebody who doesn't have a Moorish nationality? That's nonsensical. Like, how do you expect to get answers? How do you expect to get out of what you're in? It's like Brother Taj Bey was telling these clowns on their, Dr. Ben crap. You have to get up where you fell down. You're not going to fall here and get up over there. It's not even logical. You're going to stay down there and roll to over there and then get up over there. Right?
You gonna get this work, nigga. I killed you. Hold up. You gonna get this work.
$70 trillion.
I understand that, but
you
you can't
to
sit
walk
here
out a
and
$4 trillion solution, which is basically just a way for the Democrats to avoid dealing with this until 2017. I'm not here to talk about plans to deal with this till 2017. I'm saying we've got a real problem, and I'm tired of Republicans and Democrats who either want Republicans who want to burn the place to the ground, and Democrats, with all due respect, who want to offer a plan that gets it through their end of their second term of their presidency, and then screws me and my kids when it's over. And until we do that, we have to deal with the extraction that is at foot. It is the reason the financial markets are behaving the way they're behaving. That is a mathematical fact. This is not some opinion. This is a mathematical fact. Tens of trillions of dollars are being extracted from the United States of America. Democrats aren't doing it. Republicans are not doing it. An entire integrated system, financial system, trading system, taxing system that was created by both parties over a period of 2 decades is at work on our entire country right now. And we're sitting here arguing about whether we should do the $4 trillion plan that kicks the can down the road for the president for 2017 or burn the place to the ground, both of which are reckless, irresponsible, and stupid. And the fact of the matter is, until we actually, and I'm sorry to lose my temper, but I tell you what, I've been coming on TV for 3 years doing this. And the fact of the matter is that there's a refusal on both the Democratic and the Republican side of the aisle to acknowledge the mathematical problem, which is that the United States of America is being extracted. It's being extracted through banking, it's being extracted through trade, and it's being extracted through taxation. And there's not a single politician that has stepped forward, Susan, to deal with this.
But there's only one right now. The leader of the free world, whether you like it or not, the President of the United States is arguably one of the most powerful individuals we have out there.
But
and
Susan,
he's
what you're saying is exactly the point that Dylan is making. It's not about one guy. It's about all of them.
No, I actually disagree. I think Dylan's saying it is about one guy.
It is about one guy.
What would you like him to do?
I would like him to go to the people of the United States of America and say, people of the United States of America, your Congress is bought. Your Congress is incapable of making legislation on health care, banking, trade, or taxes, because if they do it, they will lose their political funding, and they won't do it. But I'm the President of the United States, and I won't have a country that is run by a bought Congress. So I'm not going to work with a bought Congress and try to be Mr. Big Guy. I'm working with the bought Congress. I'm going to abandon the bought Congress like Teddy Roosevelt did, and I'm going to go to the people of the United States, and I'm going to say, you've got a bought Congress. And until we get rid of the bought Congress, which is Jimmy Williams' constant point, which is get the money out of politics, and until a president says that's the problem and says he's going to fix it, there is no policy that I can possibly see, no matter how brilliant your idea may be, or your idea, or my idea, or her idea, or your idea at home, is that idea will not happen as long as there's the capacity to basically fire a politician who disagrees with me by taking funding away from him. Is that a fair assessment?
Money in politics is the root of all political evil. It is corruption at its worst. And until we step up and kick that out of the park, it's going to be the same system all
and only the president could do that. We're going to keep you guys.
The Congress has to do it too. The Congress has to do it too.
But I'll tell you what. How bad does it have to get? How much money has to be extracted? How many things have to be heard?
Down to brass tacks. Okay, physically, what do?
You go and give a speech
right now.
Right now.
Right now.
You say.
And then what happens tomorrow?
Tomorrow, what happens is you begin the process of actually investing in solving the problem. So I come out and I say, how? I create an infrastructure bank with 2% blending immediately. Once I explain to people the problem, once I explain to you have cancer, once you understand how screwed up your trade, tax, and banking policy policies are, believe me, you will have no issue when I incorporate an infrastructure bank that I fund with repatriated offshore money that I bring in and then use to create 2% direct lending to every business in America, because when you realize that the banking system is fully corrupt and defrauding us, and I come out and say that, which is what I want my president to do, that at that exact moment I say, you know what, we got a screwed up situation here, people. You all know it, and now what? I'm going to admit it. And as a result, not only have I admitted it, but we're going to begin the process of solving it like grown-ups. They did it in World War II. They did it after the Civil War. They did it in Latin America with the Brady bonds. We are not seeing it happen now.
The biggest banks in the world were hit with literally billions in fines, but not a single individual is going to be facing even a minute in jail. Now, why is that? Well, we're going to talk about it. I'm going to hit you now with a bunch of numbers, and I want you to look at these numbers and think about the financial cost to these banks, and then notice the surprising lack of any interest in finding out who it was that was responsible for the crimes in the first place. So, Attorney General Loretta Lynch announced Wednesday that 4 of the world's largest banks had pled guilty to criminal charges that their traders had conspired to fix the massive and poorly regulated foreign exchange market. Now, you might read that quote and think, well, they said traders. That means humans. But again, not going to be any humans being hurt by these charges. These are the banks that have pled guilty and the different fines that have been associated with them. You're seeing some large numbers there by our standards, probably not so large by the standards of banks that make literally tens of billions of dollars in a single year, but it's a little bit of money at the very least. In April, Deutsche Bank agreed to pay a record $2.5 billion in fines and fire several employees. Again, fire, not send to jail, for its role in rigging benchmark interest rates. Fire. And in November, 5 large banks agreed to pay a combined $4.25 billion in penalties to U.S. and British authorities on the same matter. That's on the heels of Bank of America agreeing to pay $16.6 billion for its role in the financial crisis, $2.6 billion by Credit Suisse. Look, I'm going to cut this off. They pay a lot of fines, again, by our standards, again, probably not by their standards. But in all of these cases, have you ever seen crimes that are so huge that you have to pay billions in fines for having committed, where the authorities are so 100% disinterested in identifying a single person responsible for the crimes actually being committed?
No, I don't.
Is it the bank building that did it? Is it the vault that committed the crimes? Perhaps a computer committed the crimes.
So this is, I bet if those employees robbed money from the bank, they would go to jail.
Yes.
But they didn't rob money. So if you go into a bank with a gun and you steal a couple of $1,000s, you'll go to jail for about 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
But if you work at a bank and you steal millions and millions of dollars, you might get fired.
Yeah, and then go to a different bank.
So let me just say, and they're continuing to screw over our economy. That's what people forget. It's like this is hurting the economy when they do these things, which is why it's illegal. Almost nothing is illegal anymore in banking, yet they're still finding ways to be criminals, right? Because they're all criminals. And I said this to my brother, who's the vice president of White Castle, about 4 years ago. We were having a conversation. I go, well, this is before all the bankers were criminals. And he just laughed. He laughed that naive laugh of a white-collar executive who's out of touch with reality and doesn't know anything except how to make hamburgers, right? So that's
good hamburgers, to be fair.
They are. I love them, right?
Yeah.
I love them.
I like any hamburger you get out of a drawer.
But let me say this about the banks, and this might sound indelicate, but if I could fuck my wife half as good as Wall Street has fucked our economy, I wouldn't have to go through her emails.
That's true, too.
Look, there was progress here. This is an actual first time ever that an big American financial institution has pled guilty to criminal charges. This is from Slate, Jordan Weissman's piece in Slate. He says, promisingly, Bloomberg reports the Justice Department still considering bringing charges against some of the individuals involved in the foreign exchange scheme. That's what these most recent fines were for, and the criminal plea by the bank. Even if the targets of its investigation turn out to be relatively low-level traders, it would still demonstrate, this is a great line, some determination to treat blatantly criminal activity as blatantly criminal activity.
Some.
And then he points out, we're talking about a group of conspirators that had the gall to call itself the cartel. But then, moreover, this is the quote, the first time in decades, not first time ever, first time in decades that any American mega bank has pleaded guilty to a criminal charge. So, if there are some low-level traders that are charged, again, that would have some sort of chilling effect. And again, this is a criminal charge. Like now you can say, and your brother can't give you that naive laugh. No, these banks just pled guilty in criminal court. They pled guilty and took fines because you can't literally throw a bank in jail, but they are criminals.
Yeah.
The people who did this are criminals.
Well, the beauty is, Ben, that they're $550 million to Chase, $1 billion for Citigroup, Barclay, $500 million. So just massive criminality. But what I like is when they go to charge these guys, what they do is they take 5 cops, they go down to Wall Street, they surround them, they put a chokehold on them.
Yeah.
Oh, no, that's if you're selling Lucy's. I'm sorry. If you're selling Lucy's, 5 cops will surround you on the street, one of them will choke you, and then 4 of them will kneel on you until you're dead. But that's if you're committing that crime of selling Lucy's, which is at least got to be 50 cents each, right? So these are he's only a couple $1 billion.
If you want to be safe and you're selling cigarettes, you should sell millions of cigarettes.
But
then you'll be protected.
Look, I mean, I get your point, but it's not fair because there's tax revenue involved in the cigarettes that then we're not collecting, and as opposed to the banks, when they failed, they had to be bailed out. By taxpayers.
That's
right. But the banks might have cost us slightly more money than the tax revenue loss from the Lucy's.
Maybe.
But I'm not sure. I'll have to check.
But the banks then, what they do is they then pledge money to the police defense fund or whatever it is, like they did during Occupy Wall Street. Didn't?
Well, they set up the headquarters where they would collaborate with them.
And did they?
Yeah, they had the joint media, police, and the banks. They had that one like.
Oh no kidding!
What did they call it? They had a very.
Really?
1983.
Like a command central kind of a thing?
Like a command center sort of thing, the brain or whatever.
Yeah, so then what they do is they take money,
efforts.
they take some money, a bunch of money that they got illegally from doing criminal activity, they give it to the police who are supposed to enforce the laws, but they don't. What the police do is they turn their back on the Constitution in favor of the money they just got, and then they go crack the heads of peaceful protesters.
Yeah.
That's what happens, right? That's how America's supposed to work, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I hope...
So anytime I follow the rules, anytime I pay my taxes, anytime I'm driving the speed limit, I feel like a sucker. I feel like a sucker because the people who are not only running this country, but running our government, but running the entire economy of the world are all criminally corrupt. Not a little bit. The LIBOR scandal proved us that international bankers, are rigging the price of everything. Because when they rig the interest rates, the interest rates affect everything. They said over $500 trillion in economic activity. So what that means is that bankers are now rigging the economy and rigging the price of everything, and it's in their favor. So they're all criminals. They're all corrupt. They're too big to fail. They're too big to jail. And you won't hear Hillary Clinton say we need to break up the big banks because she's one of them. She helped them become bigger. And that's what's wrong. And, when we have Jeb Bush against Hillary Clinton, everyone's going to know the system is rotten. And then we're going to have more protests. And then the banks are going to give more money to the cops to go crack the heads of peaceful protesters. And we're going to have this same goddamn argument over again with bootlickers defending the criminal cops who are defending the criminal bankers.
The Trans-Pacific Partnership, TPP, now in secret negotiations, is nothing less than globalization on steroids. And this means the devastation of America's middle class, leaving no decent jobs for you and your kids in its wake. Disguised as a free trade agreement between the U.S. and 11 countries stretching from Vietnam to Peru, TPP will make Jewish Wall Street and the corporations they control masters of the world. With key components of global trade already in the hands of Jewry, Forex, World Bank, SWIFT, TPP binds Goldman Sachs, Citigroup, and the multinationals they underwrite into one seamless corporatocracy. If TPP is signed by Obama and he's just itching to rush it through Congress via fast track, the dictates of Jewish finance capital will supersede local, state, and national law.
TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership. It's a trade agreement the United States is negotiating with Australia, Canada, Japan, and 8 other countries in the Pacific region. If you don't know about the TPP, and few do, it's because the powerful people behind it, including President Obama, don't want you to know. Eve Smith is an expert on investment banking and the founder of Aurora Advisors. She runs the Naked Capitalism blog. Could this affect the enforcement of Dodd-Frank?
Yeah, no, I mean, certainly the derivatives regulation, and I would expect the capital levels. There's no big...
How would that work?
The first language in both these deals goes something along the lines with all signatories are required to make their laws and regulations conform to the standards of this agreement. They are literally required to make their nation-based laws subordinate to the terms of these agreements.
So foreign trade partners would conceivably be allowed to challenge American laws?
Yeah.
That's exactly
the point.
And Wall Street just got one of their tribe to push their scam. A protege of Robert Rubin of Citigroup, Michael Froman, recently tabbed as our U.S. trade rep.
With regard to TPP, we are in the end game. As you said, the leaders have set the objective of completing negotiations this year. That's an ambitious objective, and certainly we're going to let the substance of the negotiations determine ultimately the deadline.
Hold it right there. Only the leaders of the negotiations know the substance of the agreement. Why won't Froman tell us what's in TPP? Because he works for Jewish Wall Street, not for U.S. trade. That's why. And the BS keeps on piling higher.
What about this idea that what the U.S. does on its sensitive sectors like dairy, sugar, textiles, footwear is going to dictate the overall ambition of the agreement? I mean, do you agree with that idea? And is the U.S. willing to be generous in some of those areas in order to get an ambitious agreement?
Every country's got their sensitivities. We recognize that. We don't have the luxury of being able to maintain an all-or-nothing approach.
Really? When it comes to Jews clamoring for war and sanctions against Syria and Iran, it's an all-or-nothing approach. But when it comes to negotiating away our jobs, suddenly Froman says the U.S. doesn't have the luxury to take an all-or-nothing approach. A leaked text reveals that TPP grants investor privileges that helps corporations move U.S. jobs to low-wage countries. That's why TPP includes Vietnam, a new fave of Jewish Wall Street, since wages there undercut China. TPP removes the U.S. tariff on Viet-manufactured shoe imports. Such a deal for Nike and communist Vietnam. International Jewry even gets a court of its own in each country due to TPP's investor-state dispute settlement provision. If regulations hamper investors' profits, they can sue the country for damages. TPP's extrajudicial court will have 3 private sector lawyers flip-flopping between being judge and corporate advocate. Some call this a kangaroo court, but I call it a Talmudic tribunal where the plaintiffs and judges belong to the same synagogue. The union of church and state has come and gone, but the union of synagogue and world is at the very doors.
They'll be calling you a radical, back to TPP, back to the liars, back to the smokescreen, and Rand Paul, as they play their dog and pony show on the Surveillance Act, the Unpatriot Act. The Unpatriot Act, oh, I made my stand. Honey, I didn't cheat on you for 364 days a year, but no, I did cheat on, but one day I didn't. It's like the firing squad. One guy doesn't have a bullet. Oh, let it expire for 5 minutes, then you do know it passed. You do know they put it, and by the way, you do know the TPP, Rand Paul voted for the TPP. He's a fraud, he's a cartel, they're all frauds. 44 Republican senators voted for the TPP. I remember when they were the party of anti-Big Brother. They are Big Brother. Up is down, black is white. TPP is the most, it's done deal. The Senate passed it. You don't think the House is going to pass it? Do you realize how radically insane these people are that are in that you elect? The older America, home of the coward. These people are so afraid of their own shadow. What was the idea of any kind of terrorist act? To put fear into your public. Look up the name. Oh, did they pull it off? Fed right, we have nothing to fear but fear itself. America's the most fearful cowards that ever. Johnny, get your gun. Them guys want to come in your house and steal your Walmart stuff. Ooh, honey. Fucking paranoid. Paranoia will destroy you. Back to Fukushima. Here we are. How many days? 1,500 and some odd days. The ocean completely freaking, it's almost gone. Oh, there's 12 wells washed up in a short period. I can't imagine what that is. This has all happened 4 years. There's no water in the aquifers in California as the heat off Fukushima, nuclear, oh, Einstein was full of shit. Oh, Oppenheimer was full of shit. All the great scientists, my third grade science teacher, she was full of shit. That science is no good. That cancer doesn't kill anybody. That leukemia doesn't kill anybody. That brain, oh, it's just brain cancer. Cancer, the new norm. Oh, I just cut my breast up. Put a shit out. Yeah, you won. You won. You beat cancer. No, you didn't. You got your breast cut off, your prostate ripped out, your whole soul. What's the opposite of a soft facade? Hardcore. I know I have to be hardcore. This anti-nuclear, I mean, it takes a long time to get there, but this all roads, including the TPP, lead to nuclearism. Nuclear waste, nuclear bombs, nuclear energy are the exact identical same thing. I'm headed to Vienna. It's very important I go there. They're trying to put 700 tons of DU6 into the energy solution dump site here at the end of the cycle against law. But does the law matter? No, because they have a TPP. How do you get rid of, let's see, America Vespucci, a democracy. We're not a democracy, and we're surely not America. We're the United States of America. The United States of America is a republic with a constitution. So how do you turn it into a banana republic? Get rid of the Constitution. Oh, I'd stand my ground on my Second Amendment rights when you can't even think. The Constitution's been amended 27 times. 27 hasn't been amended to the 70s because it's dogma. You're dug in and you're in ground. It's been changed. It was left open-ended so it could be changed. America, home of the coward. He's a fraud. They passed TPP. They don't need freaking the Unpatriot Act, which they have that too. This is the greatest surveillance, and I cannot overstate this. That's why I'm going to Europe. The only chance we have globally, because Americans have drank the Kool-Aid. America is drunk on ignorance and proud of it. This is the dumbest, most ignorant people. You go right to Oregon. You're right. I walk right on the coast. There's people right there, dead whales, dead alkalites, starving to death, mama sea lions. Oh, what's Fukushima? They don't even know. Oh, I thought that big reactor thing. I always drove by that. I've been driving by for 50 years. I always thought it was Dolly Parton, San Onofre. Oh, new reactor. There's a new earthquake fault right underneath San Onofre. Whoa, how many's that? 12? By the way, it's going to happen at San Onofre. It's going to happen at Diablo Canyon. It's not even going to take 7.58, which we're so overdue in California. You know, we haven't had an earthquake like the early 1900 San Francisco quake, the 1873 quake. I mean, these are monsters, and we've been the longest. You think Northridge, you think those, oh, no, those were babies compared to historical quakes in freaking California. We're going to get one, and it's over. San Onofre's, they passed it. The NRC will tell you themselves, we were never set up to handle nuclear waste. The IAEA, they use it as profiteering. It's the greatest profiteering. That's why I'm headed to Vienna. So they've got it crammed in. They've went against the law since 91. They reached capacity in 1991 legal, but the law means nothing. The law means nothing in this country. There's two sets of rules. It's just like white-collar crime's legal. You know, exploit labor. This country's over. The participation rate's off a cliff. People living at home, unless you work serfdom, you work for the government, you're done. You know, and that serfs, they just go along with it because they hate their neighbors. And work is much more than just a job showing up and just going on your conferences. You know, it's just like this idiot from American Express. You know, he dies, he's been in Japan. I'm sure he eats sushi. I'm sure whatever. Do you know how toxic Japan is now? Do you know how toxic the Pacific Ocean is? His last words as he was dying, my age, what's Fukushima? To be enlightened is to know. So our only hope is to build a global coalition, which is already being done. Because, look, the TPP, yeah, it may call it Trans-Pacific, but ask Merkel, ask the Germans, ask the Swiss. You know, the whistleblower turns over to the Swiss bank accounts to Obama, and by law, he has to release it. He won't release because they know who's on him. Can you imagine they ever release that? He's got him. He's in the club. Here, come on, here's your Uncle Tom Obama. I mean, the greatest Uncle Tom in human history. That's just a fact. The country's over. Off-balance sheet debt of 40 trillion. So the surveillance is on Balco. They're spying on everybody in the world, so we have to build a coalition globally. they're going after you in Europe. Do not kid yourself. They're going after you hardcore. I think it's funny, John Kerry, who threw his medals in Potomac. They got to him, too. Think about who his wife is. Oh, she's married to the senator, Hines, who gets killed on a plane wreck, and she's connected to the same people that freaking whacked the freaking president of Argentina through the CIA, and now she's married to Kerry. You know, they all join the club. You know, they forget about their purity and their own, just like the music. Oh, you know, la la la. La 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 la, I'm Patty Smythe. Ooh, I'm the freaking thing, I'm the boxer. No, you're not. They all joined the club. They're happy with their serfdom. Because, I mean, it's amazing how easily they're bought and how ignorant the populace is. Ron Paul's a fraud. And, he'll be able to go on and say, well, I let it expire. I fought against it. No, he didn't. Rand Paul voted for the TPP. It's a fact. These people are frauds. 44 Republican senators and the betrayal 13. The Democrat freaking anti-labor fucking want to kill you fucking surveillance. This TPP, I mean, it's all shrouded in nuclear everything. It's beyond globalism. I mean, it's neo-feudalism to the 10th power. There's no America anymore. For real. Everything we stood for, it's over. And they're trying to do the same thing to Europe. And they're going to do it. So a coalition built through nuclear. By the way, we're going to start 3 nuclear reactors in Japan. It's nothing but American propaganda shoved down your throat. No, they're not. You know, the Japanese know 48 reactors offline for 4 years, no rolling by. How's that possible when they told us made it? Because they're there for one reason, to point freaking nuclear bombs at China. It's a nuclear weapons facilities is all they are. They're nuclear weapons. They know that. Japan knows that. The provinces have filed lawsuits. The judges have ruled you're not restarting them. You know, it's American propaganda, Hillary Weston, Klaus Clinton. Bill Walmart freaking uranium mine, Kazakhstan, freaking all. It's free money. It's serfdom. The House of Windsor, Rhodes Scholar, freaking. Hello, how do they find this hillbilly? CIA rats, all of them. Barack CIA, freaking Obama. You know, they find them. Barry, you on the Harvard basketball team? Why would you say such a thing? Tall, skinny guy, the whitest place on earth, Whitey? Whitey in the White House. Uncle Tom Obama. I'm freaking blacker than he is, and I'm a white boy with Scandinavian bloodlines from Utah. The world, look, hello, these globalist monsters in the United States are taking over the world. The world. China's racing forward, so the whole world's racing forward. Technology caught up, we don't use the shit. They're there to make oligarchs wealth and control and to threaten people so they can extract natural resources. They're threats, they're ticking time bombs. Build them all over the world. So when the next one that goes off, and I'm here to tell you, is I call it the nuclear for Zion, the nuclear triangle. Chernobyl, Japan, from Japan, little boy and back. The next one's going to happen here in the United States. I can't believe it hasn't happened. We have 104 tickets, and it's going to happen to Diablo Canyon, San Onofre, and it's over. That's what people don't realize. Oh, they keep shoving this propaganda. You're never going back into those areas of Japan. It's gone forever. You're never going back in those areas. The half-life of these things are for hundreds of thousands of years. Hundreds of thousands of years. There's no answer for the waste. It's everywhere, and we just continue to break more because it's war profiteering. It's free money. It's neo-feudalism, serfdom, and you join, you become an academic impression because all the young people are going to school because they can't get a job. They don't want to serve coffee the rest of the way. That's what they're going to do. It's serfdom. So you lose all dignity, all honor. A job is much more than money. That's working with your hands. I mean, I was a plaster for all those years. That's why it brings dignity and joy. Don't raise your voice, Johnny. Johnny, get your gun. America, home of the cowards. Ron Paul's a fraud. They let it expire for 5 minutes. 5 minutes they let it expire. They passed it. On Balco, they have the TP. This is beyond surveillance. This has even more to surveillance. This has to do with all control. They could kill you anytime they want for any reason. Ask Snowden. Ask Michael Hastings. Ask Aaron Swartz. Ask I am Pat fucking Tillman. We have to, I mean, you're talking a small group of people that have incorporated this 350 million people in the United States, these dogma burger eating, home of the ignorant, the most ignorant population in the world. You know, I read an article the other day on a survey here locally that less than 20% of the population can even name 3 branches of government. I mean, think about how gone we are. What are the 3 branches of government now? Well, we're going to have to rewrite the history books. TPP, NSA, CIA. CIA, TPP, NSA, checks and balances. How many votes does it take to become president of the United States? 6. 5 Supreme Court justices and your daddy CIA rat, drug dealer who put him there. They're all CIA, they're all rats, it's completely gone, and you fall for this smokescreen. Oh, Rand Paul, and Rand. Let's talk about that fraud. Ayn Rand, the libertarian, who was on public subsidized housing in Manhattan for years, and Alan Greenspan followed around Chuck Norris, who drew welfare for years, public subsidized by hundreds of thousands of dollars. And science fiction writer, she is to the economy what L. Ron Hubbard was to Scientology. You know, I wrote a science fiction figure, like, so I guess I'll turn it into a religion. I defer to the Rand Paul, and Rand Paul. I mean, it's insanity. You know, the science fiction atheist from Stalingrad, Leningrad. Thank you, comrade. You know, it's insanity how ignorant, but yet we have to build a coalition. You know, because they're giving us all cancer. You're getting cancer in droves. And, you know, Bo Biden was at MD Anderson. That's the top unit in the world, the best of the best. That's where I was at, you know. LDS, they're tied together. I'm here to tell you, the culling has started. Oh, it's got to be those comrades. It's got to be those sea lions killing the salmon. We got to protect the freaking Torah Center and lie. There's no herring. Comrades don't eat herring. There's no sardines. The mama sea lion's dead. Oh, 12 dead whales right there. The mystery goo. Oh, we're going to get back to you. Marine biologists are going to get back to you. I've been told by many. I've walked up and down and been all those marine biologists. They tell you straight up, Fed's told to stand down. So everybody plays along. It's Uncle Tom. You play along, you're an academia, you build up your pyramid, you got that cushy job, you don't do nothing, but you got no dignity, you got no soul, you got no enlightenment, because to draw money for nothing doesn't do anything for the soul. It makes you hate yourself. You know, unrightfully so, you should hate yourself. You should all do the honorable thing. All the marine biology departments, all the black and yellow media, all of them that have played ball and cover should do the honorable thing and kill yourself now before the mobs turn on you and do it for you. Sick fuckers.
Big business gets in there because wars are very profitable to certain big businesses. And of course, big business needs to be in the Middle East so that we can get the oil out of the Middle East, so we can get the lithium out of Afghanistan. You know, they discovered a vein of lithium there they say is worth $1 trillion. Well, what is lithium used for? Every cell phone, computer, and soon to be electric cars. Let's talk about why we're really there. We're not there. How does any of these wars affect our freedom in any way? The United States is not in any threat. They're not going to do a Normandy invasion on us, Al-Qaeda in Virginia.
Yeah, but hang on, you're being slightly naive, aren't you? Because
I'm not being naive, sir.
I think you are being naive.
No.
Because I think that it's clear one of the main reasons that America went into Afghanistan was to try and get Al-Qaeda dismantled, the organization which committed the 9/11 atrocity.
Really?
Well, you don't think so?
Well, how come Al-Qaeda put the heroin business out? They took all the poppy growers and stopped the production of heroin.
What would you have done?
Wait, now how much of that illegal heroin was propping up the international banks with laundered money, and when it dried up, the first recession happened? Well, now that we're back in there, we aligned with the poppy growers, and the heroin business is back up full swing again. I thought we fight a war on drugs here.
All right, Jesse,
we're not.
What would you have done on September the 12th, 2001? What would you have done if you'd been president?
What would I have done?
Yeah.
I would have done a legitimate investigation to find out what exactly happened on 9/11. How did they know who did this so quickly like they did Lee Harvey Oswald? How quick they knew Lee Harvey Oswald killed Kennedy.
Because the people who did it were identified and we knew who they were.
Well, then why couldn't we have stopped them beforehand if they were identified and we knew who they were?
It was a failure of intelligence. Everyone's accepted
No, it
that.
wasn't. We knew before with Condoleezza Rice's memo on August 6th when it stated right in the memo, bin Laden to steal planes and run them into buildings. And more stuff is coming out now also, how much the Bush administration ignored the intelligence. It was almost like they ignored it because they wanted it to happen.
Oh, come off it, Jesse.
No, not come off it. Wait a minute. Every war fought starts with a false flag operation.
You can't, in all seriousness, sit there and try and make out anybody in the Bush
let me ask you this, Piers. Wait a minute. Let me ask you something. How much studying have you actually done of 9/11 other than what the government's told you and what mainstream media has told you?
I've been studying it 4 years.
I was editor
of a national newspaper.
I've talked to
covered it in depth every day for 5-6 months.
Really?
So I know a lot about it.
Well,
And one
then
thing
how
I do
come-
know is...
let me ask you this
you
then.
cannot say that any member of the Bush administration knew it was going to happen or wanted it to happen. It's a ridiculous thing to say.
Ridiculous. Okay, let's talk about your BBC. I have a tape of a BBC reporter broadcasting directly back to England talking about a third building has collapsed. World Trade Center Building 7 talks for 7 minutes. All the while she's talking, World Trade Center Building 7 is still standing right behind her. It didn't fall for another half hour, yet they were doing a pre-broadcast back to England that, yes, it's true,
you need to
that
take a
this
break here.
building fell and it hadn't fallen yet.
If you're trying to make out the British Broadcasting Company, one of the most respected news organisations in the world, was inventing huge buildings falling over, you need to have a break, Jesse. We'll come back after the break, and we'll talk about Israel and Iran.
Are you kidding me? This is a fact, my friend.
No. I always imagine myself making great plays, but you never think about being MVP.
Investigate 9/11. 9/11 was perpetrated by people within our own government.
All right. Oh, God. Is everybody all right? Check his press pass.
When I was doing Conspiracy Theory, the show, we got a tape of a woman, a reporter with the BBC, British Broadcasting Company, who did a live report that day from 9/11 at 4:50 in the afternoon. Here's what her report was that day: that a third building that was not struck by any aircraft collapsed to the ground in 7 seconds. Now, it was not hit by a plane, so they said fire caused it. Well, what the hell did they build this building out of? Cardboard? And you know what the fun part about this whole report was? The entire time she's reporting it, the building's standing behind her. It hasn't fallen yet. We went to the BBC. We wanted to interview her to ask her who gave her this information this building had collapsed, and didn't she know it was right behind her? They wouldn't talk to us. The 9/11 Commission, their big report, didn't even cover it.
You are correct about Jane Stanley. She was the BBC reporter who made that announcement 26 minutes earlier than the building fell. And she was interviewed years later. She said it's just very unfortunate that this whole conspiracy, this kind of ridiculous situation, has grown out of what is a very small and honest mistake.
What? A small and honest mistake? How could it be a mistake to report a building fell before it did?
She and the BBC said that they were given misinformation, that the building, they had heard that the building had fallen when there were still reports that the building was going to fall.
And that doesn't make a little light go off and say, oops, somebody screwed up and let the cat out of the bag early?
Question. You have 3 skyscrapers and 2 airplanes. How do you destroy all 3 skyscrapers with just the 2 airplanes? Shout out to Judy Wood. Dr. Judy Wood.
The interview you've been waiting for. Dr. Judy Wood joins me to discuss her book, Where Did the Towers Go? She's a former professor of mechanical engineering who left Clemson University to research the destruction of the World Trade Center towers. Her book, Where Did the Towers Go?, is the evidence of her forensic investigation on what physically happened to the towers. In 2007, she used her research to file a federal lawsuit against the contractors of the National Institute of Standards and Technology, called NIST, accusing them of science fraud in their official report on 9/11. I welcome Dr. Judy Wood to Off the Grid. Welcome, Judy. Thanks for joining me off the grid.
Well, thank you so very much for having me.
Before we go into the book, Dr. Wood, I want to go into you a little bit. Okay, you graduated from high school. Where did you go next and what have you accomplished?
I graduated with an undergraduate degree at Virginia Tech in civil engineering, and then worked in between and went on to a master's degree in engineering mechanics, and then went on to a PhD in materials engineering science.
Does this all fall under physics, what you would learn in high school in physics a great deal?
Yes, applied physics, and also looking at materials characterization, finding a new material and identifying what all of its traits are.
And now, and so you obviously, like I said, you have a BS, an MS, a PhD. You know what you're talking about when it's in your field, correct?
And yes, and taught the course, and taught graduate courses in it.
You've taught graduate courses, so your credentials are there. Judy, in your opinion, what the hell happened on 9/11?
Well, you need to start with the evidence. You don't start with the theory. That's a big mistake that many people make. Because, as I say, if you want to know how tall somebody is, you begin with a measuring tape, not a theory. And also, you don't take theories to court. You take evidence to court. What I discovered was that the buildings did not burn up, nor did they slam to the ground, but most of them turned into dust in midair. That is remarkable, because we've never seen something like that happen before. But we know they turned into dust in midair. Most of them did. Not every speck, but the majority of the buildings. And there were 7 buildings, not just 3. So there were 7 buildings. Because if they had slammed to the ground, you'd see a pile of rubble left over. That didn't happen. And if they slammed to the ground, lower Manhattan's underground would have been flooded because you would have ruptured the bathtub. Now that's a kind of dike that goes around the base of the towers, because the towers were actually built in the Hudson River 70 feet below the water table. So if you drop 2 500,000-ton buildings, slam them down onto a dike, you'd rupture that dike. That didn't happen. Also, if you slammed them to the ground, the seismic signals would have reflected that. Like you hit a rock with a hammer, it would ring like a tuning fork. That didn't happen. There was no detectable signal that traveled through the earth, only a surface wave. And that's what you get like when you get up off your mattress in the morning, your mattress recovers. The signal doesn't travel through the earth. And that would only be true if the buildings didn't slam to the ground, but turned into dust.
And so what occurred that day, and I know you've taken some criticism using the term dustified. You kind of came up with a new word right there. Something was dustified. When you say that, you're referring to what actually happened to this big mass of concrete and metal. It was turned into dust, right?
Right, and we don't have a word to describe that phenomenon. And we've never seen that phenomenon before, so we need a new word to define it. And that's another characteristic of good forensic science, is if you don't know what something is, don't use the name of a known phenomenon, because then you're biasing your observations. If you see a hazy mist and you call it smoke, you're assuming the cause is fire. But just keep generic terms as placeholders. If you want, you can call it characteristic 297-3A. That's a bit awkward. So the fact that it's awkward would even bias your observations. Just whatever term that comes to you, and just be consistent, define it, and then move on with that.
What made you decide to research 9/11? What led you to take this up full time and actually leave your teaching position?
Somebody needed to. On 9/11, sitting there in the faculty conference room with senior faculty next to me, I looked and like, don't you guys think this is weird? And they looked like, what kind of a wacko are you? Because, of course the building collapsed because they just told us it collapsed. But a collapsing building doesn't look like that. That's frothing into dust. And that fascinated me, and I learned immediately you weren't allowed to talk about it. So it's like, am I on a foreign planet? And okay, the grown-ups are going to take care of it. But it came to a point where it was clear the grown-ups weren't going to take care of it. And that's when I realized, whose job is it to take care of it? This is our world. This is our country. It's our job, every one of us. And I knew that if I didn't do it, nobody else would.
Motivation-wise, do you favor one political party over the other? Are you neutral, independent? Where politically does Dr. Judy Wood stand?
I think that political parties are like two different jerseys of the same team, the home jersey and the away jersey. And they're all, it just is squabbling back and forth, and that distracts you from what you need to talk about. And this business of sides, like this recent thing that's come up in Nevada, why doesn't somebody just sit down and say, what's the problem? Once we define the problem, then we can solve it. Instead, it's like, let's draw this line and start fighting whoever's on the other side, fight. And you don't solve anything.
You took time. This book is tremendous. I've read it. What's your response to people who chalk up all your work and call what you do junk science? Because haven't the truthers labeled you that?
Yes, they have. And I have to ask, why are they interested in determining what happened? They call for a new investigation. Here it is. If it's something's wrong with it, why don't they refute what's wrong with it? No one has refuted anything in my book.
Not only that, where do they come up with junk science when you're a physicist? That's not junk science, that is science.
Right. And if you don't base a forensic study on evidence, what do you base it on? Guesses?
Let's get to something really interesting. The thing that really got to me, one of the things in your book, are these toasted cars. They found cars toasted as far away as 6 blocks. How could that possibly be done by 2 planes hitting a building and a building collapsing that would affect cars 6 blocks away? And the interesting thing about it was only the metal that was burnt?
Well, there's different aspects of it, but it did appear to be material specific. Like whatever was affecting things would affect one type of material, not another. Again, I define toasted. Toasted means like it's toast, it's history. You can't fix it, you gotta get another one because it's beyond hope. It was a convenient word because I didn't know what had happened to the car. So it was a placeholder, it's toast. And if something is toasted right up to a line, and then not toasted right adjacent to that, fire doesn't do that. Fire is black and white and shades of gray in between. Not, completely toasted and then pristine. And this is one car that has police lights on the top. That's some polycarbonate that kind of melts at low temperatures. But the inside is completely toasted. There's nothing left but just the raw, bare metal. How do you explain that? That's not heat doing that. And some of them have plastic trim around the edge.
Many of these cars were flipped over and were actually flipped onto their roofs and all that. And I remember people telling me the explanation I got when I brought that up. I said, how could these cars be flipped over on their roofs? And the explanation I initially got was, well, when the buildings came down, there was such a force of wind, almost like a tornado, that it was that powerful it could flip cars. And then I looked at the photos in your book of the flipped cars, and right next to the car, you see a tree with all its leaves on it. So clearly the cars were not flipped by some energy wind that happened, because if that would have happened, wouldn't the trees have been stripped of their leaves?
Correct, you're spot on. And also there are witnesses who describe being lifted up and carried like a block.
What explanation did he give as to what happened to him?
He didn't know. That wasn't, I've seen tailoring of his testimony over time, and I think it's just to stay out of trouble. That initially what he said, he really described what he experienced, and then since then it morphs into, well, it must have been a big gust of wind that blew me in. But he said it was picked up like being picked up by a tornado. That really? I found very interesting, because I've also been looking into tornadoes, and there's a lot of similarities with what happens.